A massive win this past weekend for Trinidad and Tobago. Now, joining us in studio, we have the president of the National Association of Athletics Administrations of TNT. And once again, of course, congratulations to Jereem Richards on his impressive win at the New Balance Indoor Grand Prix in Boston, where he edged Olympic champion Noah Lyles in the men's 300 meters. Good morning, Mr. Ephraim Serrette, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Pleasure is mine.
It's so good to have you here with us to celebrate this moment and to talk a little bit about the sport going forward. Now, Jereem Richards' victory in Boston has really brought some renewed attention to Trinidad and Tobago athletics. From the association standpoint, what does this result mean for the sport nationally?
Well, I wouldn't say renewed because the past summer at the World Championships, he would have won silver in the 400, broke a national record, and then we had Keyshawn winning gold. So that, track and field, as I always say, and Jereem would have alluded to that yesterday, is the most successful sport in Trinidad and Tobago. When we look at international competition, World Championships, Olympics, out of the 19 Olympic medals, track and field responsible for 15. So, coming out of a drought from 2019 and 2023 from World Championships, we captured 2 medals, gold and silver, at the World Championships. And Jereem continues to represent Trinidad and Tobago at the highest level. He's one of our athletes who has progressed from a junior athlete and maintained that status, competing and representing Trinidad.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. My next question to you is, we know he's been producing these really big performances consistently over the past few years, but was this particular win, something that the technical team anticipated, or did it exceed expectations this early in the game?
Well, it's the indoor season. We do have indoors in Trinidad, and the athletes, both him and Noah train together, and so they know each other. And I guess Noah known for the 100, 200, Jereem is for the 200, 400. So I guess that would have allowed him that additional strength to just hold off Noah at the end. So that, Jereem is a athlete who, prays a lot, and he focuses on the job ahead in his events. So that, yes, we are happy for him, and it also allows our junior athletes to look up to him. Last year we held the Carifta Games here. We had him as a motivational individual, as athlete to the younger athletes, so that he could share his experiences. And we will continue to do that.
From a logistical and technical standpoint, Jereem also let us know yesterday that there is a particular type of decline, I believe, at the end of this race. There is something that provides a different level of complexity, and also going up against someone like Noah, also is his training partner. He let us know yesterday. Yes. He said it was a bit of a challenge, but he really pushed through. Tell us about that. He said it's a decline, I believe?
Well, the indoor track, there's a banking like cycling, so that when you're coming off that top turn, you're coming down a banking. As he indicated as well, on the outside lane, you have a little advantage of the incline. And I think he would have lost his balance in his hip and then picked it up a little lower down as he approached the finish line. So a lot of our athletes, when they leave here and they go to college, they find some difficulty in adjusting to competing indoors.
Understand. Moving on now, Mr. Serrette, what type of institutional support is currently available through Sport TT and the Ministry of Sport, and how does the NAAATT work alongside these organizations, these agencies, to ensure that athletes like Jereem are given the resources and well taken care of?
Well, there's policy. There's the Elite Athlete Funding, which allows athletes to $250,000 annually to support, and then there's grant funding. For the elite athlete, to qualify for that fund, athletes need to be in the top 40 in the world. So if you're not in the top 40, then you fall under the grant funding, which is 75,000 TT. 75,000 TT for an athlete training in the US is, just roughly about 10,000 TT. So it does not really, assist, but it would help, to do whatever. But we the support for the athletes, the policy is clear. and the athletes know what the policies are, so that if you really want to be qualified for the elite funding, you have to be in the top 40 in the world, and it is as clear as that, and there's no shifting or thing. Jereem would have indicated that he has some local sponsors in Atlantic and I think Bryden or one of those. That's very fortunate. As a federation, we would have enjoyed a little over 20 years sponsorship from the National Gas Company. And mid last year, September, somewhere around there, we are no longer sponsored by NGC. I mean, everybody in the news talking about the steel bans, but sport also suffered through that. Just last night, I was looking at the PAN and Fonclair. It's no Fonclair, no NLCB Fonclair. So it's sad though that corporate Trinidad does not see it fit to contribute to the development and sport, culture, these things. I mean, when I travel, people ask you about sporting icons, the Calypsonians. When you say Trinidad and Tobago, Atto Bolden, Casey Crawford, Jereem, Kishore, and the culture, they ask about Marshall and all these people. And still, the kind of support that is given to sport, and let me just stick with sport. Although there's rebate, so when corporate Trinidad sponsors federation or such, at the end of each year they get back some stuff. So it's always difficult when I think in the past sport used to be very controversial, always in the news for all these kind of things, but I don't think over the last couple of decades, we haven't had that kind of, especially where track and field is concerned, we have not been in the news for any wrongdoings. We have been doing well, managing. Sport is a big business, and the entry has registered as a non-for-profit organization. They have had constitutional reform. They have a board in place, and all these things are done by persons voluntarily. There's no pay for this. Sometimes you hear people making remarks about those officials in these associations stealing funds. There's no funds to steal. There's no funds to steal. And we try our best to see how we can use our limited resources to assist. Through NGC, the NGC sponsorship, we'd have had programs in primary schools. We had a transitional program where we call the youth elite, so athletes between 16 and 19, to assist them to transition from the junior into the senior area. So all of that has gone through the window, and we are here in 2026. We have Carifta Games coming up under Sport TT. We are one of the 15 sporting organizations under Sport TT. Sport TT is structured in a way where they don't have funding allocated, where they can say, okay, we will, what would be given to track and field. So they now have to do notes, put it to their board, approval, then send to the ministry for another approval through the minister and the PSs. And for this year, they have indicated to us they have capped track and field at 1.6 million. Carifta Games, which is one of the best junior competition in the world, and this has been said by numerous presidents of World Athletics. That cost us, once we have to leave Trinidad and Tobago, it costs us close to $1 million. So if we have $1 million, if $1 million is spent on Carifta, which is on the Easter weekend, one of our early competitions, before that we would have the World Indoor Championships. So it means with that kind of allocation or cap, it means that we cannot go to any other competitions. So the funding we get from Sport TT is basically for high performance, for teams to go and compete, which is is something that we are concerned about, where funding is provided for high performance. How do we get the younger athletes to get to high performance so that no funding is provided for development? None. NGC, when they were on board with us, they were our development partner. So funding and support from NGC would have gone into our development programs. As it is, for now, we just have to lean on coaches, the clubs, so that they can do whatever they do. And as an association, we would have what we call developmental series competitions for athletes to compete. Right now, most athletes, the junior athletes, are competing to attain standards to qualify for the Carifta team.
Mr. Serrette, I want to touch on using a win like Jereem's win. How do you leverage this now to inspire the young people, maybe at a community level or the school levels, to say, this is what I want to be? How is the association thinking about that, using this to,
We always, so that when Jereem or any of those elite athletes in Trinidad, we use them in programs to go to schools so that they can share with the young athletes what the sport has done for them. I am a product of the sport. I competed as a junior into a senior athlete, was on the national senior team as a junior athlete, and attained a government scholarship. And then came back to Trinidad and contributed to public sector development and to sport. And it's because of my passion and know what the sport would have done for me. And I share that with the athletes, the clubs, and we try to use our athletes to do the same. Athletes like Keston Bledman, when they're here, we try to ensure that they give back in like sharing where they would have come from and what the sport has done for them. I was born and bred in Mova. Not a bad place, but the media, they would paint you with a brush. And the sport has done so much for me, and that's why I feel committed to give back to the sport.
I'm glad you touched on that, Mrs. Serrette, because that brings me to my next question for you. I asked Jereem this yesterday, you probably would have heard. We've seen some talented coaches, analysts, and even athletes leave for opportunities. Now, unlike you, you came back. You came back to give back to the sport, but a lot of them are leaving for opportunities abroad. What strategies are being explored, or what can we do to retain our local expertise and to strengthen our domestic athletic ecosystem?
First of all, we need to have a center, for development of our athletes. The universities here are not doing anything to attract our athletes to stay home. Now, Keyshawn Walcott won Olympic medal training out of Trinidad and Tobago. Darrell Brown would have won a silver medal at the World Championships training out of Trinidad and Tobago with coaches locally. So we have that here, but we have this notion that foreign is always best. I think the athletes would leave to go to the US for school purposes, but then when you're in school, you have to compete to represent the school to score points. That's how the coaches in the US system keep their job, by winning championships. So you have to go score points, so you have to run. So on a given weekend, a sprinter may have to run 100, 200, 4x1 relay. So you're doing that through the early part of the year till NCs in June or end of May, June, and then you come home to represent Trinidad and Tobago. You're tired. So they are burnt out. I mean, fortunately for me, I could have competed when I wanted to compete because I was on a government scholarship. So I was on a walk-on the team. So I didn't have to compete, regularly. But when I chose to. So that our athletes in the system, by the time they come to represent Trinidad and Tobago, they are tired. But there's need for us to have a development center. And then we have one certified arena that we could run track and field in. Whereas football could play in Larry Gomes, they could go in Atto Bolden, they could go Manu Ranjan. We could only do track and field at the Hazy Crawford Stadium. And there's always a tussle between football having an event, track and field has to take a back seat. And, I reckon the stadium is named Hazy Crawford Stadium. But we have to take a back seat for football. As I indicated, our sport is not as popular as football or cricket. So we always have to play that second or third fiddle where the sport is concerned. and our arena is the only Class 1 certified facility in the region. Right? But so there's need for us to have a development center here, and maybe not just to facilitate our athletes, but other athletes in the region who may want to pursue that kind of, that career in track and field. So we have a development center here. We have a dedicated facility for track and field. I mean, we have the Cuban Ishmael Lopez Mastrapa who works with Keyshawn. So we could have for throws and we could have for sprints as well, because we continue to produce sprinters. Although at the Carifta Games last year, the middle and long distance athletes, they had a good showing. And it's something that I think is picking up in Trinidad and Tobago.
Mr. Serrette, so we're talking about the school system and we're looking at identifying young talent, from a very, very early age. Are there any programs in place at this point, or is it something that's on the agenda for the association? Maybe to start identifying, this may be a good athlete and start mentoring. And what about mentorship programs for elite athletes like Jereem Richards?
Well, the identifying the talent, that would have been part of our program that we had running with NGC in the primary schools. So we would have assisted the primary schools in that working with the zones, the 8 districts, so that they would have had persons in schools, the coaches, that is, and then they work with the districts in preparing those athletes that have been identified to represent the district at the national primary school championships. So that was one of the things that we were doing, but we no longer can't do that without the sponsorship that was on board with us. I'm aware that Sport TT, there's a unit who is trying to do something similar with respect to the primary schools and that kind of thing, but I don't know how successful it has been to date. But the thing is that we need to have all this, when we're doing this, all these coaches who we have over 55 clubs in Trinidad and Tobago. And these coaches do this out of passion, love, giving back. There's no pay in this thing. I mean, when I hear people, as I mentioned earlier, speaking about the federation stealing money and doing whatever, we giving back. And I mean, people just, what they get paid is really cool. People just say all kind of bad things. You working, you have a normal 8 to 4. You would buy a vehicle. First thing, they take the association money to buy a vehicle. How possible is that? So we would really like to have sponsors on board. The funding that is required to develop our young athletes, because we have the talent. Jereem would have identified that we have the talent here, but it's how do we nurture them to be junior champions and then transitioning into the senior realm. Track and field is one of the hardest sports because it's you. In football, you have 10 other players, you can blame people, and you can hide. You don't hide it in track and field. It's either you want it or you don't want it.
I want to end on an inspirational note, Mr. Serrette. What message would you like to share with young athletes and their parents across TNT who are inspired by Jereem's success? Not just Jereem, but all the other elite athletes. What would you say to them if they're interested and they're inspired and they want to do this for themselves as well?
I think the young athletes have to understand what the sport can do for them. Parents also have to understand that balance. Because we have this thing in Trinidad and Tobago, like, you have young children, they're going to do SCA, and that's one of the problems the sport suffers. So you have a nice athlete, a talented athlete, and then when they reach the standard 2, 3, they have to go lessons and all these things. So then they are taken away from the sport until after SCA. When they come back after SCA, you have to start over the process. And then they get into secondary school, and by 3rd form, same thing, they have to prepare for. So the parents have to understand that balance. Because if you use the sport, they get a scholarship, You have to have that balance because in college you need to maintain a particular grade point average in order to compete. So you have to strike that balance. And I don't think it's hard. I always tell people going to school in the US, once you have a basic education in Trinidad, if you fail in that US system, it's because you want to fail. So the way it's structured, it's not designed for failure. So the young athletes, they need to, or parents, I should say, the parents need to understand how that balance works and not take away the young, talented athletes from training and just to focus on the studies and that kind of thing.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Ephraim Serrette, for joining us this morning, President of the National Association of Athletics Administrations of Trinidad and Tobago. Well, we've got so much more when we come back. The time now, 20 minutes before 7 o'clock. We hope that you're having a great morning with us. Thanks for being here on TNT Today.